and be community. So they want to be, they're being what they're seeing. So community. And so me and Twan thought it was appropriate to have this space in Baltimore. And we'll actually take leaders from all over the country, but Baltimore is our city. That's where we get our folks from. And this is a space we just talk about the Baltimore. Turn your phone off. So, so today, my name is Queen. I am a host at Black Box Radio. Black Box Radio is a media platform illustrating Black excellence. We platform Black people. We expose Black genius, and we definitely disseminate information to the community, especially the Black community, and to other communities. And most of all, we humanize the experience. Because I used to say we humanize us, but no, we humanize the Black experience because everyone co-ops who we are and what we do. So we want to be able to express that from a Black-centered space, and especially from Black people. You better know it. So I got my co-host here. This is the Community Corner. We have a guest, but dang, our guest don't look like she's showing up again. She not coming in, Twan? You on mute. Let me unmute you. Guest not coming in today? No guest?
I ain't hear nothing. Might be tied up. I don't know, but the corner still moves.
Oh, there she goes. She coming in. I see her coming in. The corner still go.
Exceptional.
That's
this
right.
legacy changing. So
all day. Listen, this is my illustrious co-host, my big brother. Tell the people who you is, what you do, bro.
Man, Twan&Queen, founder of Hope Baltimore, helping oppressed people excel, co-host of the Community Corner, which empowers change in people, and where there's empowered people, there's empowered change. You know, one of the things that we have to look around and look at the way we support and help people gradually gives that pathway for resources to be an empowerment to them. And everyone that we know that has utilized resources, network, and things of that nature, they have in some form or fashion in their daily life have been empowering for change for someone else. So as we say, you know, empowered people creates hope. Hope changes lives. We keep pushing, we keep moving. Is span the ballot, value my vote. You know what I'm saying? It's all that around formally impacted legacy building.
Oh, you gotta listen. You got a spiel on top of spiel this time, bro. I hear you. So you guys heard about Hope. You heard about Black Box Radio. And we get ready to bring in our guests. Because the Community Corner tonight, we're talking about voting. Remember, November 8th is National Election Day, but we're talking about voting in the formerly incarcerated community, especially Baltimore. So that's a conversation for today. And we have Nicole Hanson-Mundell with us. I'm getting ready to put her in. Oh, all we see is the chair. So we're gonna I'm gonna remove her until she's ready. So since you are a part of this community, Twan, kind of tell the folks what has been going on when it comes to establishing voting rights for people who are in jail or people who are out of jail. How does that all work? Break it down for us who don't know.
I mean, you know, a lot, like I always say, you know, a lot of us have done things predominantly like around voting, whether it's in the family, school, learning the process, even on the block, you know what I'm saying, who you network with, who you dialogue with. So it's a thing that we always been a part of. We just never understood the real reality behind the political measures and the citizenship measures of why we need to vote, you know. And then for so long through education and history, it has always been a non-importance around Black people, you know, or Black and brown communities, because for so long they have fought this fight until like certain aspects of granted privileges through the Constitution, you know, that it made it look like they was actually doing something to give us a power. But then the thing has to understand what is being given to us and who is educating on us why we must use it. So one of the things when I first came home, I didn't care anything about it, you know, but then as a voice of power became understanding and being around it and seeing the groups of people that were playing a part, it was only right that I learned it to be able to empower some other peoples on why they need to vote, you know. And looking at the certain measures years ago coming up, rec centers, the school centers. Certain people held it on their front porches in communities to try to register people, where now the rec centers and all those things have been closed down as certain measures to only describe in certain areas where voting polls could be at. And then people saying, like, what's the reason to go there when they really don't want me there? They don't interact with us. They don't like be in our community. But then we got to understand, who is it that's representing our community, and who are these people, that where they come from? Where is it that, like, during voters election that we always see you, but I don't never see you ground to ground base in my community helping us, that's doing something to really transition. So around our campaigning coalition, we have found dedicated ones that we could work and build with, and even now it's to the ACLU, State Board of Elections, certain delegates, certain city council persons and things of that nature. But as I was saying earlier, Queen, there's a lot of numbers that don't add up. So, like, I need to know where these numbers are coming from, and, like, are they actually bodies that's in communities where they being selected from, or are they somebody using addresses coming into those communities and make it like the numbers are really there?
Well, let's first, because sometimes education, you guys know what's going on, but we don't. And so what you said, but we're not clear about. So I'm trying to first get a basis for the people, like what the type of work that was done for the community. And then we'll move on to the people who are running and what's so important about voting. But I want to first know what, particularly for the formerly incarcerated, what is the movability when it comes to voting. So we're going to bring in our guest, because we got to bring her in, because Lord have mercy, she came through.
She's a lead voice.
She is here, and she's the lead voice, guys. We got the lead mother Scooter in the house. We got my sister, Nicole. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the box. Tell us who you are and what you do, sweetheart.
Hey, Queen, it's an honor. It's an honor. And hey, Twan, thanks for the both of you inviting me and being a part of my community, right? The community that keeps us lifted up and keeps us supported and keeps us accountable. Mm-hmm. I am Nicole Hanson-Mundell. I'm the executive director of Out for Justice. Out for Justice is a grassroots-based nonprofit organization based here in Maryland. This is an organization that is led by formerly and currently incarcerated people. An organization whose mission is to educate, engage, and empower the reentry community around the laws and policies to impact them, work with them, organize around how to center their voices in Maryland's legislative process, how to understand every step of the process, how to write their own policy initiatives, how to build campaigns around those initiatives, and then how to ensure that the policies that we are a part of crafting are properly implemented through the agencies whose job it is to uphold the law that has been approved by Maryland's General Assembly. So that's who we are in a nutshell, Queen. Okay. We do a number of things, though. We have 4 programs at Out for Justice. One being the legislative advocacy work that we do, right? So that's really around hosting advocacy membership meetings where we're hearing directly from the voices of the people what issues, they want to see changed. Then there's the rapid response work that we do, where we just meet the needs of our community members, specifically formerly incarcerated and currently incarcerated people, in a rapid way. They need things rapidly. We work our asses off to provide it rapidly, right? Whether that's rapidly getting support from our partners or us rapidly doing it to support them.
Okay.
The next program is our bail and legal program. And that program really includes one, directly bailing Black bodies out of prison, right?
Wow. Okay.
Through cash means, or using our intellectual property and legal expertise to go back and forth with, legal actors and help navigate our loved ones out of the legal system, or help them navigate the legal system in itself, whether it's civil law, family law, child support law, whatever our members come to us with, we will do what we can to, one, bring experts to the table to help them understand the process of that particular issue, and then figure out what they got to do to navigate it. And then lastly, and what brings us here today is the voting work that we do. And voting work, like Twan said, has been at the cornerstone of our, reentry from the time we got out, right?
Right.
We always heard about it. We always engaged in it. And at Out for Justice, it's always been a priority, because from the time this org formalized in what was that, 2012, the org had been around a lot longer, but in 2012, it actually formalized into this 501c3. Voting rights have been a priority to us, because at that time we did not have our voting rights. In 2012, we only had the only way you can vote was if you were off what we call papers. And so over the years that kind of evolved. And 2015, we restored the right as co-chairs of a coalition. And I remember Perry Hopkins at that time being a leader of that movement. And we were able to get over 40,000 individuals access to the ballot who were on probation and parole. So that law really said the minute your foot touches the soil, you had the right to vote.
So let me ask a question. Because this makes so. In 2012, there were no voting rights, and we're talking about in Maryland. So,
well, let me be clear.
Okay.
By 2012, individuals who were sitting in jail pre-trial had the right to vote. Nobody was talking about it.
Oh, right? They didn't know.
Nobody. Well, I don't know who knew. I know. I didn't know. I know individuals I was around who were leading voting work were not speaking of it, right? So based on what we know now, ever since people could vote, individuals sitting in jail never lost their right. Really? Now, so individuals sitting in jail pre-trial, they hadn't been convicted of anything. Right. What we saw was 2007 under, who was that? Senator Joan Carter Conway and Jill Carter, Delegate Jill Carter at the time. I was working for her around 2007 when individuals regained their right once they were offered probation and parole. So they had to serve all their time on probation and parole, and someone could have life on parole. So, right? But then we... Wait.
There's a life on parole?
Yeah, you got some people who serve the rest of their life on parole. Yeah.
Really? I didn't know that. Oh, man.
Yeah.
I thought you served a certain time and then parole is over. So
whatever that time the judge sets for you is when parole is over.
So you can have life and parole and you have to pay the system for life?
Whatever time the judge sets for you is what you will be on parole for. If the judge says you have 50 years on parole and you're 50, that's the rest of your life. So,
wow. Okay.
What we saw in the voting work is that in 2015, a group of advocates came together and we restored voting rights for over 40,000 Marylanders. And the law said that the minute your foot touched the soil, you were eligible to vote. It also talked about individuals with misdemeanor convictions in jail. They could vote as well, right?
Okay. Now, may I ask a question? Are there actually voting machines in jail?
Not in Maryland. Not in Maryland.
Oh,
but let me make sure the law is clear. Because I think the law is where you ask for process in the law. And so 2018 comes, we're still pushing, we, meaning the advocates, not the legislator, not the state, not the Board of Elections. We, the advocates, are still pushing the message around individuals with felonies have the right to vote. Y'all go vote. You can vote immediately when your feet touch the soil. Or individuals sitting in jail with misdemeanor convictions, you all have the right to vote. But it was somewhere between late 2017, 2018. I'm digging in deep with one of the gentlemen that I always talked about voting work with, which was Hassan. And I said, well, what about the individual sitting pre-trial? And he said, Nicole, they never lost their right. I said, what you mean they never lost their right? He was like, they never lost their right. And I'm like, well, why y'all weren't talking about that? And, there's a whole bunch of discussion around that. But what I chose to do under my leadership at OFJ is I start to sound the alarm about it, because it was deeply disturbing to me that up until 2018, individuals sitting in jail pre-trial had always had the right to vote. And the state board, the local boards were doing nothing about this. And so there came the Value My Vote Act, that ensured that the voting law spelled out in detail what each agency should be doing. Because we get into policy all the time to do a thing, but we rarely spell out the process in the law. We rarely say, we want our right to vote, and each agency has to do this. You all have to coordinate with you all. You all have to give us a report at the end of the year. This is what happens when you don't do it, right? So often our criminal justice policy only tells the state what to do. It rarely lines out how and who's responsible and how much money should be allocated and what happens when you don't and what type of report do we want to generate. So all that happened in 2018 when the alarm was sounded that individuals in jail had the right to vote. And that's what took us to 2020, where we really dug in deep with the state board to say, you will no longer ignore this population again. And you will do your job as the State Board of Elections, because we know your job is to ensure that every eligible voter has access to the ballot. And that includes individuals sitting in our jail pre-trial. That includes individuals on misdemeanor convictions. And it also includes individuals who are free with several felony convictions who are on probation and parole.
So stop for a minute, because you're giving us so much information. We cannot catalog it as my brain.
It's not recorded.
Yeah, I said we can't catalog it because you know all of this. So I want to break it down because people are like, me, I don't know. So you're saying after all of these years in 2020, the Board of Elections had to finally recognize that everybody can vote. Am I correct?
No.
Except
by 2020, the Board of Elections had to come up with a process on how they were going to get individuals who are in our local jails access to the ballot. Because prior to that, they had done nothing. They never sent in a ballot. They never sent in a voter registration form. They had never come up with a voting plan for behind the walls. They had never done any branding or advertising for people who are free. They had never done anything.
Got it. So in other words, this thing with this right to vote was something that you could have done, but there was no process to make it happen. So if you're behind the walls, it was over for you because they never sent any literature. They never bought a voting machine. So in other words, it's also telling you, I really don't have the right to vote because you don't hear anything about it. So that's
it's another form of disenfranchisement. Exactly. It's another form of voter suppression, because people often think that voter suppression comes in a form of like somebody saying a thing, but voter suppression also comes in a form of saying nothing.
I understand. If you're in a place, if you're in a hole and no one sends you a letter, you don't know nobody outside and outside because you live in that hole, right? So that's particularly what it is. So now the board, you guys forced the Board of Elections to create this system. Am I correct?
Right. So through the Value My Vote Act, it required, and I'm gonna read some of the things out. I'm gonna physically read our legislation's provisions, if I may. House Bill 222. It was sponsored by Delegate Wilkins, Janelle Wilkins, out of Moco County, and Senator Chris West, who was a Republican in Baltimore County, because the goal was that this would be a bipartisan effort, and we wanted no party bullcrap in this policy, right? So we bridged party lines. And what the bill required was that the Department of Public Safety must, because you got to be careful with policy when it says may or shall, right? You got to be careful with that kind of language. So you got to make sure it's must language. Must provide each individual who is released from a correctional facility with a voter registration application and notice that their right to vote has been restored. Under the Department of Public Safety and Corrections, they must display public signs in each probation and parole site stating that an individual who is no longer incarcerated has the right to vote. They must post a notice on the DPSCS website stating that any individual who is no longer incarcerated has the right. Now, you can't do one without the other, because let's be clear, the Department of Corrections' job is not to ensure people have the right to vote. That's not what they signed up for as a correctional officer. They signed up as a correctional officer to keep the jail safe and to follow the rules of the prison, right? So it makes only the right sense to merge this with the State Board of Elections. So the State Board of Elections' job is to disseminate this information on eligible requirements to register to vote and voter registration applications to eligible voters in at least 30 days before the deadline to register and vote before the election. They must disseminate instructions on absentee voting, absentee ballot applications, absentee ballots before each election in a timely manner. They must provide opportunities for eligible voters to register to vote and vote. This is the Board of Elections. And they must provide for the timely return of a voter registration application, absentee ballots completed by eligible voters. And lastly, what the law talks about, Queen and your listeners, is the reporting requirements, right? Always ask yourself, does your laws include reporting requirements? Because if they don't, you just telling whoever to do whatever, and you ain't getting no feedback, no data, nothing. So our law has some reporting requirements from the state board to the legislator. Each year, the state board needs to submit a report to the Maryland General Assembly on a couple of things: the number of eligible voters who registered to vote, attempted to vote, and voted successfully by absentee ballot during immediately preceding the calendar year. The number of times the state board or local board of elections visited each correctional facility during immediately preceding the calendar year. So this law, before I continue with the bullet points, this law is just not about the state-run facilities. It includes the 24 counties where local jails exist as well. So we thought strategically about not just making this law for the Department of Corrections, but we also thought about our brothers and sisters who are in local jails across this state, whether it's St. Mary's County or Talbot County, right?
Okay, well, let me ask you a question. Wait, hold on for a minute. So I hear this law, because all of that, I'm actually lost, because I cannot in my mind understand all of that. That's a lot. So everyone is getting the right to vote from the law, but the law is stating what the requirements for the election board and the requirements for DPS. Is that what I'm hearing?
The only people in this state that can't vote right now are individuals who are in jail on a felony conviction. Of the reentry community, they the only people that cannot vote. It's
They're the
people
only
who are
ones that can vote in Maryland. Is
from the
anyone
reentry community. Yes.
that has a felony conviction, you cannot revoke.
No. And while you in jail, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're out of jail and you have a felony, you still can vote.
You still
Okay, so there's a lot of people walking around with convictions thinking they never can vote again. Is that what?
That's not true.
But that's what they're thinking. That's what's been thought for a long time.
Yeah, I know. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, so if you have a felony that you can't vote, but that is not true. That's what we want
The
to say.
only people I'm not going to address voting law in general here. Sure. I'm only addressing voting law as it relates to formerly incarcerated people and currently incarcerated people. And of that demographic, of that population, the only people who cannot vote are people who are in jail serving time on a felony conviction. And that's not going to be long either. Pretty soon, we're going to make sure that we have full restoration. But we want to make sure, Queen, that the agencies whose job it is to get out people their ballots, to inform out people of their rights are informed before we say, all right, now add this other population. I'm just not one of those advocates who, surely my other colleagues can definitely be a part of full restoration. I don't have a problem with it. I'm just not ready for that yet because, like you said, you're confused as to the current process, right? So if you, Queen, are confused of the current process, imagine what will happen when we add thousands and thousands and thousands of other brothers and sisters onto this process. So for me,
let me tell you a reason why we're confused is most of people who have never been incarcerated, our mind is not, we don't even have a thought process of it at all. So when you come and say this, and this, we're confused because we never had to deal with that. So a lot of the times I'm trying to let my listeners understand that, listen, these are people, they've served their time, and this is the process. Because everybody that I know has somebody who's been formerly incarcerated in their family, in their circle, their friends. It's everywhere. So it's not something because you haven't, that someone in your family has it. So it's something that we all need to be well versed on, because I want to be devil's advocate more than anything. Why do you guys want to vote? That's what I want to ask.
You want me to answer that question?
I sure do. Why do y'all want to vote?
I'm
about to light up the story today. Y'all want to come in here and read law? No, we're not reading no law. Why you want to vote, Nicole?
I think we should do both, but I'm more than happy to tell you why. Not only do I want to vote and why I have been voting ever since legal age. One, it was indoctrinated in my life. My grandmother took me to the polling sites when I was just a little girl, right? So it's been a traditional thing for me. But two, she helped me understand that my vote was always my ability to hire and fire. And up until 2-3 years ago, 5 years ago, I hadn't had the ability to hire and fire anyone. So I enjoy hiring and firing people who did not have my best interests at heart, right? That's just the realest. That's the fondest memory I have of voting. But as I began to educate myself on how my civic involvement influences my government, influences the education my children get, influences what my taxes look like, influences what my car insurance looks like, influences how much I pay to try to buy a home, influences how much I pay at the grocery store, influences my roads. I learned that my vote is my entry point at all of those things, right? It's not my only tool. My vote is one of the tools in my box of tools, right? And so I have always enjoyed learning how government can work for me, because I knew that this current system was not built for me as a Black woman. It wasn't built for my husband as a Black man. It wasn't built for my cousin as a Black boy. And so I was always interested in how to use this system, who was not historically designed for me. How can I use it and flip it and navigate it and ensure that the people who chose to continue to live in this system, or was forced to continue to live in this system, what could we do to lessen the harm, right? And so when I look at my vote is my entry point to lessening the harm. When I look at my vote is my entry point of choosing whose job it is to change laws for me. See, my vote gave me the power to change these laws. My vote gave me the entry point to call that elected official to say, I live in your district. You're sponsoring this bill. I don't like it. Or I do like it. Or I think you should change it. Your vote gives you that entry point. I want to vote because I want to make sure that when it's time for me to go back to school and get money to go to college, then I can tap my legislator and say, I need some scholarship money. And I know you have it because the Department of Education gives you a certain amount of money every legislative session for somebody like me, right? So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. No matter how old you are, the Department of Education allots a certain amount of money for each elected official on the state level to give out monies for scholarships. That means when the legislative session starts, any one of you who have already cast your ballot has the ability to go to your state representative and say, hey, I need money to go back to school, or I need money to go to a trade school. How much can you help me with? And so I vote because I'm always exploring the ways that government can work for me and my people. And I'm always digging for how these processes that this country has come up with to govern us, how they either benefit us or they harm us. And if they're harming us, my vote gives me the ability to use my voice to say, you're harming us, and I think these things should change. And in fact, I'm going to organize an army of people around me who feel the same way to then come and change that. So that's why I vote.
You spelled that out. Twan, why you vote?
Just like I remember, like Nicole said, in rec centers, like we would hang down there, voting days or whatever. But that was a lot of ways of us in the community. Mothers and parents kept most of us together instead of trying to keep us from up what was going on in certain areas, But for a lot of years, I was always told I couldn't vote. So I was like, the hell with it, But then in 2014, when I came home and I was hearing about all this, and they was like, no, I couldn't register because one, I was a high risk offender, you know what I'm saying? Two, you know what I mean? Then I was like, well, like Nicole said, what is it that I can do to like not allow them to stop me from not being a part of citizenship? And then like many of us understand these things that happen, but they don't know the power and unification together we hold that can build a new mark of what can be done, So that became a thing for me, where every year to make sure me and all those that's a part of Hope and with me, that I know that can be a gradual voice and a gradual number to start empowering, educating people on why they need to vote. I'm tired of this. I don't want this. I'm tired of they doing this in our community. Then what we need to do is get ballots. We need to vote and figure out what can we do to make the change. And then as we was going and talking to people about what we wanted to do to change, House Bill 222. You know what I'm saying? Looking at we need to get this passed so everybody in and out can have a right and be a voice. Many was like, it wasn't going to happen. Now we look up today, everybody can vote except those serving felony sentence while they incarcerated. You know, so no longer is it a thing I don't know because it's pushed. And we are on the grounds pushing it in community, registering, educating, on social media, talking about it, talking with delegates, bringing delegates all night events and all these things to do these things. So like if people not aware of it, it's because they're not really paying attention.
So, you know, this is a conversation and I like to throw things in. So I heard why you guys want to vote, because it's people who've never been incarcerated. There's people who've never had issues and they don't vote because a lot of times in America, the Black experience is not something that is the forefront of any municipality or any voting or any legislative process. So people don't feel that whomever's there, their voice is going to be heard. And I'm talking from a devil and me, and I vote, but I understand that. I think I was talking today to my good friend, my good partner, Twan, and I said to him, I said, we're voting in a country, in a constitution, and everything that we're voting to uphold was not built for Black people. To me, it's
that's what I just said.
Yeah. To me, it's nonsensical to continue to validate something that was created for white males, not women, not Black people, but for white males. So we continue to want to build and institute and actually participate in a process that was never ever made for you. So I kind of understand why people have issues with voting. And I think the biggest thing with voting is, do you guys have an issue with cultivating candidates? Because we're voting for just people, and all these people, I don't care what color are, do they have the interests of the people who are really suffering in the community? That's the question.
That's what my thing is.
So what I'll say is those people are absolutely right. We were forced into a land that was not ours, right? And we have some choices. Some of us have some choices. Some of us can choose to continue to stay in this land or move to a different part of the world, right? Some of us can. And some of us cannot. Some of us do not have, economically, we don't have that access. And so what I say to those people is you're absolutely right. Not just the voting system was built for white men, but many of these systems that we take advantage of or we have to work.
Constitution. I mean, I said Constitution. That's the U.S.
All of it. All of it. No, let me correct it. None of this infrastructure that we are governed by was designed for us.
That's
right?
Exactly what I said. Yeah.
However, we have our ancestors who are part of building this shit up, right? Yeah. And we are here, and so what you're gonna be governed by this city, this constitution, no matter how you put it, right? Queen, as a podcaster, you have to follow certain laws as it relates to the freedom of speech and the freedom of protection, all of these things in this constitution, right? And so what I say is until you can identify a different system to govern you, or until you can create your own system to govern you in a different land, why not? Or utilize what we have? Because one thing I know about the individuals who created the Constitution and then coming down to the different states, right? It's all tricky, right? You can find some contradiction in Maryland law all over the place, whether it's family law, criminal law, traffic law. It's always some contradiction because some of the tricky people are the people who created these laws, right? And so for me, it's like, use what was not built for you, flip it to make it work for you, and use it to your best advantage. Use it to your benefit. You asked the question about producing candidates, right? So
candidates.
do I feel like, I think what we're doing as criminal justice advocates, and just people trying to build and cultivate each other and learn from each other, we're building our own ecosystem already, right? We're building our own ecosystems that can support each other. As it relates to the political question that you asked, given that I run a nonprofit organization and you introduced me as Nicole of Out for Justice, I am not at the liberty to talk about a C4 issue, right? That's not without. It's a C4 issue. So when you start asking, do we want to run candidates based on the law as a 501c3 nonprofit, I cannot engage in endorsing candidates, right? That's not what we can do. So you have a 501c3 representative on your call.
Yeah, but we're not talking about running candidates. What I was saying is
I
it
thought
best?
That's what you said.
No, I said, is it the best for the Black community to cultivate candidates?
Definitely. Definitely. I thought you said, does it make sense for us to cultivate candidates? No.
Well, I'm always talking from community.
No, definitely. It makes sense for us to cultivate candidates. You looking at some of the best candidates. It's just a matter of, do we want to run for office or not? Like, will we be the best candidates to run for office? Definitely. So yes, I think that is happening all over the country, where Black folks are cultivating candidates and individuals like ourselves are deciding to run for office, who are creating their own political parties. So yes, I think we should be cultivating.
Yeah, I think cultivation is totally important. And what I was saying that is because now we have people that because you're Black doesn't mean that you're Black centered, and it doesn't mean that you have any love for Black people. So I think it's very important for you to know what is actually being presented. So you guys, I don't want to run for office. That's not something I want to do. But you guys, if y'all want to be in office, that makes sense. But I really think that we have to cultivate who's going to work with us and be around us, because those who don't understand what the people are going through, it's very hard to legislate for them. And I think that's some of the biggest problems. We got a lot of Black candidates in Baltimore, but look at Baltimore. We got a lot of Black issues in Baltimore. So my goal is, can we cultivate what we're putting out there? And like what I said with the Constitution and it being not set up for us at all, I think a lot of time we are involved in processes in America that there will never be any manifestation for the African.
Right. Because it's almost like you're trying to get a healthy fruit from tainted soil, right? It's like, you ain't gonna get that. No, you're not.
A flawed system and a flawed environment going to create flawed results.
Right, and that's why I said what is happening is, inside of a system there's a cultivating of our own ecosystems where we can thrive and we can support each other and we can nurture each other. And so I think it's happening all over. You got Brother Heber Brown over there with the Food Church Security Network. Black folks raising their own fruits and vegetables and traveling across the country to teach Black churches who own their land how to, cultivate their own food, right?
Yeah, I love the Food Security Network, but they're not doing anything with policy. But they
don't have to. When you talk about, you're asking about the cultivation of candidates, right?
for office.
Right. But we also have to make sure that we're building an ecosystem that supports the whole Black person, right? So I might be an expert on policy, but he might be an expert on food security. And then that Black person is an expert on money management and investment. And that Black person might be the best on how to build Black property and Black land, like the brother out in Cherry Hill. Like, so I think policy is interconnected with all of our lives, right? So if you're talking about, if you're speaking from a perspective of the soil is tainted, and there is nothing that we can get out of a tainted soil, right? And whether that's policy, whether that's food security, whatever that is. So I think the solution the solution to that is that we're cultivating an ecosystem where we can thrive as a whole person, both politically, economically, and all these spiritually, and all these spaces, because I think that the policy is at the center of a lot of those things, and so everybody can't do everything. But what I could get from a Black food security network is, what is the issues that's impacting you at the Blue Food Security Network? What are the policies that's making it hard for you to thrive? And then a Nicole can come to the Maryland legislature and say, hey, change this specific law around food access, around the ability of whatever to get access to food or land. And then that expertise can then benefit him, right? So my job is to keep my ears to the ground and hear what is happening in my community so that I can take those lived experiences and turn them into policies that impact my ecosystem. So that's kind of what that was where I was going.
Like one thing, like systems are made to keep people to fall in line to their agendas, and we have to create a constitution community based first, where a certain community has rules and structures of things that it goes by, and everyone lives according to it, just as the Constitution did. But now the thing is, out of their independence, none of those proper rights of that Constitution will be equal to the other one. So it only fits a group of people. So we have to start following and grow it to be big as that one, to start having the same amount of people to vote and bring people in. And just as community leaders, I think a lot of people looked at Kwasi Mfume, right? And looked at the time span when he was in office here in the city. A lot of them networked from different levels to make the city financially run properly. But everyone's got this position and they want to do it all themselves. And everybody has to play a part for the equal opportunity to reach the ground level, to meet up on a median level, to meet up on a high level. But somewhere in between, it's a separation where the bridge is broken and it's only meeting on one level that equals out the benefit of what the system agenda is. So until we have to always say that things that we're doing now, we're seeing some progress, but the conveyance of raising a candidate up, it's going to have to start in the building process and then in the nurturing of groups of kids or youngins that we may not even see it. We may not even see the fruits of it, but we know it has to begin, and we have to start structuralizing the system. And certain bills that have gotten passed, they can be the start of the local constitution for those bills to protect them on this what happened, this got changed, this is how it affects us, and this is how we can move as a community together.
And that's exactly what I was trying to get. It's like when you create the farm needs seeds and it needs all of this stuff. Yes. Mm-hmm. But if the soil is already full of oil, it's never going to grow anything.
Yeah.
So you got to take and you got to replace that soil to cultivate and bring out actually food or whatever crop you want to put on that soil. It will not grow with the oil. You got to take that soil up. That's exactly what I'm saying with the Constitution. And it's not about leaving, because the Constitution was particularly drafted by a group of men because they were in control. They had resources and they controlled the country. So they drafted the Constitution from their perspective. That's only sensical. That makes sense. But what is nonsensical is, to me, and this is me talking, it's not you guys talking. What's nonsensical to me is that the African continues to contribute to the same document that cannot and has no way of
never will.
It never will have a way of.
So what's your solution then?
Let me finish.
Yeah.
So it never has a way of giving us a way of life that's going to be a proponent for our greatness. So what I'm saying, my solution to that is the only way, like I said with the farm, the only way to have a crop grow is you have to create new spaces. And so we continue to want to cultivate and build upon, like we said, what's flawed will produce flaws and will continue to be flawed. So when I say the solution, I'm saying that if we cultivate, and this is when I say cultivate, we talk about young people. We cultivate them, we ensure that they understand the community, they understand policy, and they're educated with the king's stuff, so they understand how to navigate. Right, Nicole?
Right.
So once you do all of that, and you have these young people doing that, then you put them on the farm to build the crop, not go put them on the damn farm that has all this oil in the soil, and they never gonna build a damn crop. And then you keep putting amendments, you keep bringing in other seeds. You know what I'm saying? Because you think you might see something grow. My solution that I'm saying is, if we're going to go forward as a people and as demographics change in America, and the voting blocks will change, because we see it happening. That's why they continue to want to change voting and change the requirements for voting, because things are changing from demographics. But there's still the major portion of what we're doing starts with the document. And to me, I think if we're going to continue the policy argument, we have to look at changing the basis of the policy. That's
okay. I hear you. So you talking about
you're
exactly what we did. You know what I'm saying? Because
look at the screen, look at your phone. You're upside down. We can't see.
There was a process where me and Nicole seen, and we was like, we had to be leads and voices on this, you know. And you had people out of ACLU, you had this, you had the NAACP, and I told Ms. Terry at that time with the NAACP down here, I said, you know, like, why is it that I ain't never seen the NAACP in West Baltimore?
Never.
I ain't never seen the Greater Urban League. I ain't never seen all these people that's supposed to protect our civil liberties when they're violated every day.
Yes.
So it took advocates to bring these points across so that people could actually see the numbers, and then like, wow, they really got this shit done, you know?
Yeah.
And now, like, they really respecting it. But like, the thing is,
they can see that you guys are galvanized.
Yeah, they see we galvanizing, and then now questions are asking, who is the galvanizer? Who is a part of it?
Yeah.
Who's a planner? Because a threat is coming.
Who made this happen?
These are being planted.
Yeah.
And always, like, even from CommunityCorner, Black Box Radio, it gives a soil that people can grow mentally and watch their own production grow. Mentally understanding the energies that's going to affect them, their families, their communities, what happens here, how do we connect and start building all together, you know?
Yes.
Get it, Queen. You know what I'm saying? And
it's so important, because I think voting is something we must do. I'm not saying, I think policy has to be changed. I don't want anybody to think, oh, I'm advocating, don't vote, don't be a part of the process. I'm not advocating that. What I'm saying is, as we continue to play in a box that don't have no sand.
Nah.
And if you don't bring in new sand and replenish the damn box, you're going to continue to have the results that we see. And
Yep.
I think it's very important that we look at how do we change the basis of how this country, of how we are ruling, because the justice system is so flawed because this Constitution is flawed. The system is flawed. Then everything that they produce around it has to be full of flaws. And it's usually control based, because the only way that it can go forward is to control the people.
I always think, like, and Karen woke me up when she said this. When we was doing Jobs for Justice, right?
Right.
And she said, how about we fighting for the same thing that Angela Davis fought for?
Yeah.
Ida B. Wells.
Yeah.
Harriet Tubman.
Yeah.
Sister Mary Frances, Lou Hammond, all them. You know, and when you start looking at these names, women was the first one who jumped off in the 1800s about why their votes were not being counted. You know, they gave us something in 1870 to say, like, okay, slavery ended. Now everybody, right, they can actually vote if they're a citizen. But
black men could vote before women. People got to understand that even black men could vote before women could vote.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what happened in America.
Absolutely. They were not allowed. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And like looking at 1915 and 1930s and all these things that come up, the sit-ins, the walk, and we're doing the same thing all over again.
All over again.
This time, we just went from oppressed communities to Annapolis directly.
Mm-hmm.
And made ascension now, like these conferences and these conventions and these national alliances that we now becoming part of, like showing me all the stuff that's going on, but systematically, they got people in the agenda in a state where we fought to get the right, but nobody even want to talk about it. I'm talking about people can file clemency. People can file ownership for owning their own homes. Their grandparents and like own properties in East Baltimore, they done come in and took it from them. That's illegal, unconstitutional, and dead right bullying. You want to bullify something? That's the bullying.
But that killed that. But they did this with their own constitution. That's the same constitution that we're following letter to letter. They're breaking every day to take. So my question again is: can we continue to be a part of this made up system that continues to do malicious things to people? But I'm not saying it's all bad. I'm saying what we see when it comes to the Black community, we are falling in last. We fall back. We got all the fallback plans, but we continue to want to do what the system should do. You should vote. You should put this one in. You should follow the rules. But look at our communities. Look at what we have. Look at who we are. It's a problem. We have to look at the basis of what we're signing on to. And I think we're signing on to the ship that's sank. But because it's still there and it's above water, we okay with it.
I always say, like, for anybody that, like, I go to meet or whatever, the first thing I want to know, how is it that you plan to help the zero restricted red line areas and peoples in those communities? Because you're saying you're going to put this and this much grassroots, but grassroots ain't going to see it, because particularly partners that's above the grass is going to be the ones who get it.
All the time.
All the time. You know, then like you want to meet people, come to the community so they can directly talk with you and they can tell you their real issues. And then you can figure out how you can answer their questions right on the spot. Not something that you got to go back, right, think about, and then, oh, I can't say that because this,
Does
that.
that ever happen, Twan? You know how many times I say,
let's
all talk to the people. They don't want to talk to the people.
You know,
they
and
want to come to the community.
Came with me that said that, and then gave them numbers to reach them. Mm-hmm. Or like when something was going on, I would urgency, like, yeah, I talked to the such and such, and I talked to such and such, and this is how they helping me. They assisted me with this. They told me what direction. And I always say, if you get into a blind spot, let me know, because it ain't get figured out. Don't accept they got you this person, they got you that. If it's not solving the issue of what you had, then they just passing the buck like check ball and throw the ball down court trying to get a fast point.
Mm-hmm.
Let's walk the steps, because when we walk the steps and get them out, change happens, because we can look back and see the process that formalized the plan that overall made a solution.
Okay.
You know, and a lot, like you say, a lot of these people coming from different places. We don't know who flying them in, who brought them in, what reason they here. One thing I know, no money, none of that shit gonna shake me for my peoples or my community, because at the end result, we still gotta be here, their children and nephews. So who knows? It might be your nieces and nephews that need to be there. So you may need to do something for it.
I like that. And I was saying, Nicole, I'm glad you're back. I know you had problems. And I said something to Twan today. And listen, this is not to attack. It's not to attack a candidate, like because we have, election day is coming. We're going to choose a new governor. And I was saying to him, and Westmore, he's running. There's a Republican candidate. I don't have a problem with Westmore. I don't know who he is, because he has no voting.
You got a libertarian, you got a working.
Absolutely, you have all of them. You have all of them. But I'm talking about who we most identify. This Democrat Republican thing that they put up. But yes, there are other candidates that you can. The Green Party. You have other candidates on the ballot, and I look at all of them. Do we know who they are? Do they even have a voting history when it comes to bills? And being a part, Westmore doesn't have that. Who's the Republican candidate? I don't even know. What's his name?
Dan.
Okay, that's him. Okay, so these folks who are presented to us as candidates,
if you look,
can they really help us in the community?
Well, it depends on what community you're talking about.
Because the Black community all the time, isn't it?
I'm just saying. I mean, I just heard you saying they don't have a voting history. Westmore doesn't have a voting history.
I said Westmore doesn't. I was just saying him.
But Dan Cox
might have.
Dan Cox was in a legislator. So I said, well, Dan Cox says a legislative history.
No. I'm not talking about all of them. We're talking about. I said Westmore. He does not.
The Black candidate.
Some other ones might have one. Some for the Green Party might have never had one. Some they might have just been dog catcher. I don't know. I'm just saying the people who are presenting to us, we really don't know who they are until they get in there and start legislating. We don't know. Big Head, the government got his name.
We can find out who they are before they get in there legislating. I think people just have to, the same way people pick up TikTok, the same way people pick up YouTube and Instagram, people can start picking up them phones and doing research on who people are, who's running, what their history are, how they've governed something in the past, how they have engaged with community, what types of, how often have they visited your community. People have the ability to do a little bit of research before you choose a candidate. That's what my grandmother did. That's what the ancestors that came before us did. Before they went to the voting block, they already knew who they was voting for. They've already jotted down the answers. They've already asked themselves the questions 5 times. They knew. And so, no, you don't know. Your vote, though, gives you the ability to organize your people to make them do what you want them to do. I think that's a tool in creating a voting block, right? That you organize with your people and community, and you all collectively say, this is our agenda for this specific neighborhood, and we want you to do a thing, and you will listen to us, or the next time you won't have a job, right? So there's this organizing effort that has to happen. But I think we have the ability to find out more about people than we think we do, or that some of us have time to do. And then, for me, when I'm gonna take off my out for justice hat for a minute. I'm an issues voter. So if your issues don't align with mine, black, white, or Puerto Rican or Haitian, I ain't voting for you. If I don't see that you have a track record in some of the things that interest me, my self-interest, I ain't voting for you. And that's just period. That's just my prerogative. That's the way I choose to cast my ballot. It's based on the issues, my self-interest, and what best aligns with me. That's me, Nicole Hanson-Mundell. Yeah. People got the ability to go do their research.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm good in history and I'm good in research, and I don't find anything vile about any of these candidates. So
I'm not questioning your research though. I
can't find nothing about these
you
folks.
did it. You did the research and you said you can't find nothing.
You can't find nothing. So,
okay.
When people say you know who you voting for, I don't. What I know is what they say when they
that's
come
what
in.
I think a lot of Marylanders are there. Right where you are, Queen.
We don't know who we're voting for. We're voting for people, and then we talk about the CEO of this, or they did this, or they did that, but that does not translate to regular people. It does not translate to the people who are in community, who are starving, who have issues, ex-felons. So I don't understand that process. That's why I said the cultivation is so important, because when you cultivate your candidate, you know who you're voting for. You know who it is.
In addition to like cultivating something new, though, it will require many of us to unlearn some stuff, right? Because whether we want to agree with it or not, I'll just speak for myself. There are some practices and ideologies and ways that I grew up that I am now challenging, right? Like, oh shit. Based on new information, right? Based on me now walking a different walk, I am even realizing that some of the thoughts and the ways that I've been in community, some of the ideologies I've had, some of the behaviors I replicated were not of my people, right? It was not of my ancestors. And so a part of the responsibility of cultivating something fresh that is not of this constitution, not of this country, not like that thing, right? Not like that constitution taught us, not like what those laws taught us. A lot of that will require that I have to unlearn some shit, right? I have to like sit with the fact that, damn, maybe the way my mother taught me that wasn't necessarily right. And that's a hard thing for some adults to do, right? So before you can begin to cultivate new soil and new candidates and new ideologies and new ecosystems, you got to unlearn some stuff. So, that's just kind of where I am, that, part of cultivating something outside of what we've been taught. Because sometimes we don't even realize that we are adopting some of those whitewash type of behaviors. We don't realize it when when it's right in our face all the time, and we're seeing it on TV, we're hearing it on the radio, we're seeing it. And so you gotta like intentionally unlearn some of those behaviors and things.
Well, I like what you're saying. We can, acculturation is real. So the acculturated behavior is real, because we live in a society where people teach you how to be. They teach you to protect whiteness. I don't be around bushes. I'm like, listen, we're taught to protect whiteness. Acculturation is real. And so the thing about it, though, we want to unlearn some things and learn and keep others. But my thought, what I said to Twan, is we got to unlearn everything. You can't say, okay, I'm gonna be a part of this and keep it. We gotta unlearn everything and
I know that's the hard part. And I'm
to rebuild. Is
Yeah.
no building on this same
But it's
structure
a whole
is a recipe for
self-rebuilding,
disaster.
though. It's
Building on
it's
the structure that we're building on is a recipe for disaster. That's what I think. That's all I,
You know,
no,
that's something
and I agree with you too. And not to cut you off, Twan, but like I am currently there now. I was just having a conversation with my husband, and I said I am now choosing to buck all that I was taught. Now think about that. 40 years of being taught that this is normal and this is what you're supposed to be like as a black man in society, and this is what you're supposed to be like as a black woman in society. And now you got to sit with a person and be like, I'm choosing to unlearn that, right? Some people can't process that, Queen.
I told Twan, they gotta be the ones that go. Some gotta stay and some gotta die, sis. Not everybody can go. But if you want to go forward, revolution is change. Revolution means some people can't be there. But we have to change, to me, the path. Go ahead, Twan. I don't want to.
Every day, a formerly impacted person goes through a challenge of learning new and have to make decisions about what and who he need to cut off, leave back, move forward, bring on, watch who I meet, unlearn some things, still keep some things that's gonna get me
working for you. Yes.
That's gonna get me through, because it got me through the harm, the stabbings, the fights, the shootouts. You know what I'm saying? These key elements help me in certain measures, but then there's some things that everybody ain't meant to go, and I gotta be willing to walk across by myself, because every day I got 590,000 or whatever it is in the city watching, and some gonna support, and some he gonna fall. Some but I gotta stay accustomed to like what needs to happen so that I can have my own constitution to show that based upon this is what protects me, this what keeps me free, this what keeps me the right of speaking, this what draws others into my union, so that we can live and be equal as we move forward. But some things, if you ain't cutting it back, because it might be a weed choker that might strangle you to death and die.
I hear that.
And sometimes we even perpetuate systems without realizing we perpetuate systems.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so
you only be what you see. So you only be what you see. You live within a system, and you've been systematically and engineered socially to abide by that system. And so you only be what you see. Everything that we see in society was created. I think some people a lot of times think that, oh, this was here. No, regular people created it. And so it can be peeled back. But then you have to understand that, because every system was created, the Constitution, the justice system, everything was created by people, and they continue to put pieces on it as society
Kiana call it fake. It's a fake system. Kiana be like, this is fake.
I mean, because someone made it. And so if someone makes it, someone can take it away. And someone can revamp it or put something anew. That's all I'm saying is, should we look at the process of creating a system that has equity? And because the system that was created at the beginning was created for white men across the board, and it's continued to protect whiteness. I don't have a problem with white people. What I have a problem with is more people in America than white people. So we have to, So we have to have something that has equity. And what we're doing now is continuing to go after and be a part of a system that is inequitable. And it was built that way. And so can it be changed? That's really my question is, can it be changed? And voting is you guys are saying voting is the way of change. Am I clear?
That's what I'm saying. In the system, in this current system, like until we have cultivated what you're talking about, right? Mm-hmm. Until we have begun to really cultivate our new leaders, because what you're talking about is in the making. It is happening. We're doing it, right? And so while we are doing that, we are forced to be in this system. I mean, that's just the reality, right? And so based on our reality, because from what I know, I can't walk into a different ecosystem, get a job, provide for my family, live off the land. I don't have nowhere to go that looks like the world that we want to create right now. I don't have that now. Queen, if you can tell me where that exists, surely I will go right now, right? I will pick my shit and go. But while we are cultivating this, we can't ignore that this is what exists. We can't ignore that. And so what I'm saying is navigate that to the best of our ability, to get the type of things that we need while we're cultivating this new ecosystem, that is for us, by us, ran by us. What I also was going to say too is, what I thought I heard you saying is, because you're speaking from an abolitionist perspective, right? Like, I get it.
No,
No,
abolition.
it is very abolitionist what you're saying. So I don't know
what I'm saying is revolution. And it was labeled abolition, but it's just people being accountable for what they want in society. It's revolution. It should every people should want greater for themselves, right? I think maybe I'm wrong, but I think every
now I'm confused. I'm sorry.
Why are you confused?
I just got confused.
We gotta always empower betterment for others, because we have been chosen and picked to do this. You know, there was a lot of other things I wanted to do, but because what had happened, I couldn't let it go. Because it was a direct effect on me and on hundreds of others that I had close bonds and ties with. And for years, I felt like if we would have known this, we wouldn't have made the same decision.
Right.
Wow. But because we didn't know, we only made the decisions based upon what we knew and what was coming at us as a challenge. So now we got to keep that same fiery.
We got to work with what we got.
Can happen.
Got it.
You follow me, Queen? And
I'm following you. I'm following both of y'all. I just asking questions.
The threat is people are listening right here in the city. They listening, and questions are being answered from elder people that we talking with, to anti-racism people we talking with, to people on the corner in the community that we talking with. That questions are, and people are listening, and that's the power that knowing that it work. Because once everybody wake up and hear, man, listen, they seen what happened with Freddie Gray. Just imagine when everybody wake up and understands that all their rights been violated, but yet they never had a chance to understand what their rights were. So they took them, not even knowing what their rights were. If that ain't bullying, I don't know what is.
Wow.
You know what I often wish? In 2015, when Freddie Gray happened, I was probably almost like 2 years home, and I was just a member at Alfred Justice at that time. It was I had an executive director that was prior to the founder. This was the next executive director after the founder. And I was like, oh my God, all them people in the streets of Baltimore, if I can only just bust them to Annapolis, right? Because we had just came from the 2015 legislative session, and we was talking about the police officers' Bill of Rights, even back then, right? In the 2015 legislative session. And we were talking about the goal was to change the police officer to fix how immediately they had to report on an incident or the like. And that didn't happen. The legislature they didn't have the appetite for that in 2015. And then boom, Freddie Gray happened, and people were really advocating for the needs of the people, and really not taking a stand on what had happened to that Black baby, right? So
Right.
when I hear Twan say, it's like once the people, and they all getting right. This newer generation, the young folks, they're not playing. Like they're not going for so all
Nicole, we can't hear you. You don't have no reception. We can't hear you.
What about now?
Yeah, we can hear you a little now. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Exactly.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Blame it on the digital divide. That's another thing. I live in the 45th district. We got Senator McCray, Delegate Stephanie Smith, now Delegate Jackie Addison, and now Delegate Kaylin Young. I can't.
We can't hear you.
Mess.
It's a mess, eh? I can hear because we can't hear you. we can't hear you. So we're an hour and 21 in. Listen, Nicole, the work you're doing out here in Twan, what you guys are doing in your community that you're part of, and that what you do, I am so in awe of. I think is such beautiful work. I wanted to talk to you and him because I wanted to kind of ask you questions from folk who's not in that community. And we have these big ideas of what you guys can do and what everything, but we ain't never been formally impacted. I can go vote. I got I do what I want to do. So the folks like me who are like that, we're so naive in how the system and legislation works. And also we kind of fault you guys who are victims in a lot of ways of this nasty system. And because we since we never been in trouble, then listen, you got to make it work. Because you shouldn't got in trouble. That's what I'm telling you. What folks say, it don't make sense, but that's what they say.
Yeah,
just wait till they get in trouble. No,
you know what I'm saying. They get in trouble.
What you telling me is 1 in 3 of the way the system has gone, and the way how messed up it is. Tell them that 1 in 3 of every American will, and it's not may. Is will interact with the criminal legal system. Will. Ooh. So, Queen, when you go sit next to 2 other people today, one of us has interacted with the criminal legal system. Whether admitted or not. And you know the problem is, Queen, they lying to you. They lying.
They lying.
They want to be honest.
A lot of people got all of these crazy thoughts, and I ain't never been in trouble, and I don't know nobody in trouble. Why y'all?
But the other thing too is that in this country, you are likely to have broken several laws in a day. So I guarantee you, if I walk with them for a day, I can probably tell them how many laws have broken in that day. So they they put this kind of category on what they think people look like who break the law, and what they think people look like. They put this image, right? Yeah. But if I walk with them in their day,
everybody breaks the law.
Listen to their phone conversations. If they ever brought food stamps from their little cousin, they broke the law.
You're buying food stamps out here.
It's set up amongst us with micro mini barrier webs.
Yes.
That are poisonous, venomous to keep us paralyzed systemically. And this is why I always keep saying, once everybody really understand what barriers in how they have set up red line measures to keep you that way. It's made to make you not want to vote. It's made to make you give up. It's made to make you to be hopeless. It's made you to never want to be out for justice. You know what I'm saying? But always justice supporting to get them out.
Yeah, or it's made to keep you stagnant, right? I'ma just sit over here. I'm just raise my little
chill over
family. I'm
here.
just gonna work my job, and I ain't gonna deal with all that because that's a lot, right?
That's
So
on them.
I'm gonna go in my little world. I'm gonna worry about me and my kids and my little thing, and I'm gonna act like all that stuff out there that's going on out there doesn't exist. So it's either that, or it's that. You know, it's this pulling this wool over your face and not looking at the problem for what it is, not willing to see it and feel like you're good because you got these things you need it. You know, the car, the home, the clothes, you know,
Nicole, you know we can't hear you, right? We can't hear you. We love you, but we can't hear you. we love you, but we just can't. No, don't go nowhere yet. We ain't go nowhere. I know you're having a problem, but this is we ending because we almost an hour and 30 minutes. We ran long. But what I would like for you to do is give us a final jewel. Give us Nicole jewel and get up out of here. Do that for me.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Excellent. Give me Nicole's jewel.
Oh, for real. But maybe it was my volume.
Uh-huh. Oh, really, Nicole?
You hear me back?
Beautiful.
Oh, wow.
It was really, Nicole? So yeah, give us your jewel. Give us Nicole's jewel on what we talked about tonight, and we're gonna get up out of here.
Okay. So my jewel is that be civically involved. So understand what being civically involved means to you and your family. Understand that your tax dollars pay for things. It pays you working every day, and that money coming out of your check is contributing to all you see around you. And demand for more, right? Learn the government that learn the system that governs your specific society right now. And walk out that door every day knowing that your voice has the right to be heard. And whatever your area of expertise is, of course, right now, tonight, I'm talking about jail voting, equal access to voting in jails, making sure that your local boards are providing the necessary information to your local jails, making sure that if you got a loved one that's in jail tonight, if you're listening, if your loved one is in a local jail in Maryland, call that jail, call out for justice in that case. 443-563-2123.
Say that again.
443-563-2123.
That's the number for Out for Justice.
You can also get in touch with the State Board of Elections, 410-269-2840. When you talk to your loved one in that local jail or that state jail that's pre-trial and they said they ain't got their ballot yet, call one of those two numbers, because your loved ones who are currently sitting in these jails, just because they've been charged with a thing does not mean they did a thing, right? And so that specific charge has nothing to do with who they are going to choose to govern their society right now. And I just encourage you all to really dig deep and see what that vote gets you. It gets you a lot. And who you are determining going to vote for you. I mean, who you determine is going to sit on a legislative from the governor to the legislator to the attorney general. I mean, this is the midterm elections. You all are choosing some key people. Y'all choosing key people. You're choosing a governor. You're choosing the top lawyer for the state. You're choosing the judges. The voters choose who sits on the bench for the next decade. For the next decade. So whether you vote or not, you are choosing who is going to sit on the bench for the next decade, both in the criminal court and in orphans court. When it comes to making decisions about your property and estate and your loved one's estate, you control that. You vote for that. When it comes to who your local attorney is, your local state's attorney. Can you turn that TV off? I'm on a real like bam. They don't got no respect for my work.
Okay, you funny.
You can already turn the TV on. I'm just saying. But
you lost your thought.
You determine down ballot questions. You all got questions. In Baltimore City, you're gonna determine if Baltimore City runs its own police department.
Because it's now ran by the government.
Yeah, it's always been run state, and Baltimore hasn't had ownership of its own police department since the 1800s. Sometimes you're going to determine marijuana legalization, right? That's coming on the ballot. Do the voters feel that marijuana should be legalized? It's coming to the voters, right? You got different questions about should an elected official live in your district for a certain amount of months before they can run for office. All these things you all are going to decide on for this midterm election. So, get informed. Google, research, talk to your neighbors, find out who these people are. Talk about these issues, collectively decide how you're going to make these decisions, and especially for the reentry community. It's really time for us to really, get serious about this voting block we talk about, because we in the reentry community can change the course of any election, any day, in any city, in any country in America. We can do that, right? So I just want you all to know that 1 vote matters, 2 vote matters, 3 of them matters, because people have lost elections by less than 100 votes. So never think that 1 vote does not add to what you need. And if you see a candidate that you want and you connect with for them, and often dig a little bit deeper, because some candidates who don't have the type of money that they need on primetime TV or get a lot of ads on Facebook and things like that. So go digging for the folks who are running for these offices and who do have your best interests at heart.
All right. On that. We can't hear. Thank you, Nicole. Hello?
You can't hear me?
Now I can.
Yes.
Yeah, you gotta, your internet only gonna give you a little bit of time. You gotta get it all out. So you did good. We heard you. We definitely heard you. But we can't, you're moving around. Twan, hit us up. You about to take us out of here. So take us out.
Yeah, as you say, expand the ballot. It was a thing that talked about alleged infringement and knowing the right of citizens and know the power of their vote. But we must always be mindful to be aware of people trying to meticulously scrutinize on who they want in there to lead, dominate, and continue to be an iron hand. So we must find a way to challenge the iron hand, take the hammer, and secure the mallet, that it fits our situations, it fit our conditions, it fit our outcomes. We select and put people in, and they say they sent my child to prison. No, you elected them in there to send your child to prison. They didn't educate my child. No, you elected them in there to educate your children. You know what I'm saying? or not educate them. So if these things are something effective that like you need to see change, the only way change happen, you gotta take a personal issue and passion to get involved to see that it happens the way you need it to happen. You know,
that's it.
That's
it.
Thing on the nail, you know.
That's it on the nail. Listen, Nicole has had some issues, but we've had a great conversation about voting in the formerly impacted community, incarcerated impacted community. I want to thank Erica Youngblood, she's been very hot in our chat, talking about everything we've been talking about. And I know she's under the weather, so I want to thank her for listening with us. And she's on the left coast. So
that's what young blood.
Yeah, young blood. She always rolling with us. So we appreciate you, E. Get better. And Nicole, we definitely appreciate you for coming on the corner and hanging with us. And we'll be back next month. We're in the last quarter of 22, Twan. This is it. 3 more months. And we out of here 2023. So, it goes fast. I'm telling you. So we're in our last quarter. We're going to try to bring some amazing programming and on the corner and definitely talk about some amazing things. But this voting thing is something that we're going to continue talking about, expanding the ballot to everyone. And remember, Election Day is 11/8/22. We're choosing big people this time. Governor, state attorney general, right? Big folks, judges.
Please have your ballots. If you mail them in, postmark before November 8th, because what I was told that any ballot that arrives after November the 12th, but not postmarked the 8th, will not be counted, but has the opportunity to just be pushed off to an electoral candidate for their local votes.
So they still can use it. Wow. So listen, postmark that thing.
Either you count it or you don't count it.
Or you don't count. That's it.
How you gonna just allow it to linger and then somebody else can use it? Fuck out of
here. Because that's how flawed processes are. They always find a way to use it. That's how flawed process is. Always find a way to do some malicious shit on the end. So listen, we've had a good night. We've been here a long time. We got to get off of here. CommunityCorner. What's the day? What's the day, Twan? 10. What are we? 10, 11, 22, 10, 10. This 10, 10. Oh, this is Columbus Day, Indigenous People Day. All a lie.
Christopher Mungus.
Yeah, all that's a lie. So we live in a country that lies to us and tells us to go to church and get baptized. But it continues to lie to us. Like he discovered something. And so now it's the Indigenous People Day. Well, who's the Indigenous people? So they say the American Indian, who I have a lot of respect for. But history don't show that they're not the first people neither. So we need to tell the truth about everything. That's all I got to say.
They the first, but they didn't allow them to vote until 1920, though.
How you? Let's talk about. You don't be throwing that in. 1920, they couldn't even vote. The indigenous people. So we live in a very sorted world called America. But this is where we are, and we're good. Twan, I love you. We boxed up and out.
Love you too.
Deuces. See y'all next.
Go on.
See y'all next week. Peace, guys. Good night.
All right.